My for the streets mom has been living a lie my entire life. And my dad doesn't even care. My parents have always had a perfectly normal, loving marriage. At least that's what I saw. They've always slept in the same room, argue occasionally but nothing too crazy, go on dates regularly, and are always on the same page. The one thing my mom has been kind of weird about is her phone. She doesn't let me or my brother on it for any reason. If our phones die and we need to contact someone with hers, she will dial the number for us. She doesn't leave her phone sitting out unattended ever. It's always in her hand or her pocket. I guess that's not too unusual, but I'm someone who tends to leave my phone places when I go on my computer, cook, exercise, whatever. Recently, my mom came home late from work drunk as hell. My dad was already asleep, so I was stuck taking care of her. While I was helping her, she dropped her phone on the floor. Neither of us noticed and I eventually helped her into bed. When I went back downstairs, I noticed the phone on the ground, and picked it up. Her home screen had a Tinder notification. I was a mixture of shocked, betrayed, and, unfortunately curious. Her PIN was her birth month and year, so I opened her phone and looked at her Tinder account. She had her settings as women only and mentioned that she was a lesbian in her profile. It made me feel sick to my stomach, but I took a few screenshots and sent them to myself. I was so scared to tell my dad because my mom and his family are all he has. For 5 days, I thought about whether I should or not. However, when I saw my dad making my mom a bouquet of flowers from our garden, I knew I had to tell him. I showed him the screenshots, and he didn't even look shocked. All he said was something along the lines of huh. Anyways, do you need a ride home from practice tomorrow? It's been a week since I told my dad, and nobody has mentioned it. They've both been acting the same as usual. I am seriously confused by this whole thing. I guess my dad either knows or doesn't care, and either way, my whole family feels sort of artificial. My for the streets mom has been living a lie my entire life. My dad knows, and they have been lying to me and my brother our whole life. After I made the post, I called my brother and told him everything and his reaction was unsettling. He just went silent and said it was not his place to tell me what was going on. I begged him to tell me what was going on but he just hung up the phone. I guess he said something to my parents because, after dinner, they sat me down and explained everything. Their faces were so serious, so I didn't say anything and let them speak. It turns out that my parents are any father's worst dream but in reverse, a THT son and a gay daughter. They grew up in an extremely religious environment, think Mormon Church Ruby Frank vibes, so they were stuck in a tough position. It was either tell the truth to their parents and possibly get kicked out and blacklisted, or get married. Obviously, they chose to get married. They were co-leaders of their youth group so they decided they would get married and have kids so that they could escape their parents' judgment. My dad would be allowed to sleep with as many chicks as he wanted to while my mom could date her long-term best friend, and her old roommate, with no suspicions. They planned to fake dates for a couple of years, get married, have my brother, and then claim the other person cheated on their families to explain the divorce. After my brother, though, they realized that they enjoyed the system they had. They loved being married and raising a kid as a platonic unit while having the freedom to be with other people. They loved it so much they decided to have another kid, which is why I was born. That was until recently, when my mom's long-term lesbian lover broke up with her after she gave my mom an ultimatum. She'd either leave us, her family, and come out to be with her, or they'd break up. My mom was so deep into the closet that she chose us over her lover, which led her to download Tinder and get drunk often. My mom reassured me that she'd choose me and my brother over anyone, but she missed her lover. They loved me just the same and they were sorry that I found out this way. I guess they had this conversation with my brother when he was 20. I feel so bad for assuming my mother was for the streets.